despite what he would have you believe, Donald Trump's poll numbers are not the highest they have ever been. Actually, it is in fact the opposite. They are the lowest we have ever seen for a president at this point in their presidency. And the only person to rival these terrible numbers is, you guessed it, Donald Trump. And that reality makes him furious because it is making all of his plans to destroy our government that much more difficult. And especially when Hakeem Jeffries just came out and told Donald Trump how he's planning to stick the dagger in his plans. And we are going to get into all of that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and it really does mean a lot to me. Now let's get into this interview with Hakeem Jeffries.
Joining us now is the House Democratic leader, Hakeem Jeffries. Leader Jeffries, it's so good to see you. I don't know if you could hear, but or could see rather, but the instrumental portion of the bump-in was an interpretive dance protest outside the Kennedy Center. I have to ask you, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro from your neighboring Commonwealth of Pennsylvania told the New York Times about congressional Democrats, quote, "They are failing to address the real concerns that people have. They're failing to do what is their fundamental responsibility constitutionally, to be a check." That's a pretty harsh assessment of Democrats' first month in the second Trump administration. What's your response?
I have no idea what the governor was talking about, so you're going to have to ask him for clarification. Here's what I know. Here's what the facts are. Donald Trump's poll numbers aren't going up. They are coming down, particularly as it relates to his management of the economy. That's a direct result of the fact that House Democrats and Senate Democrats have made clear that we are working to drive down the high cost of living. We believe we have to make America more affordable. We believe that we should be relentlessly focused on improving the quality of life of everyday Americans. Donald Trump is a chaos agent who promised to lower costs, lower the high cost of living in the United States of America, and he's doing the exact opposite because he's not focused on it. He's unleashing chaos on the American people. We are not losing in court. We are actually winning in court. The Trump administration is losing. We are partnering on at least 79 different lawsuits that have been brought related to about 35 different illegal or unconstitutional executive orders. And the Trump administration continues to lose in court after court after court. And that effort will, of course, be on. House Republicans, they've been on the run. They are feeling the pressure of the fact that their policies are deeply unpopular with the American people. And we've seen that play out this past week all across the country. And Democrats are going to continue to make clear that we will stand against the effort to end Medicaid as we know it, stand against the effort to detonate Social Security or Medicare, certainly stand against the effort to undermine veterans' benefits or nutritional assistance to children and families.
So it's certainly true that President Trump's poll numbers are not in a great place, although they're higher than they ever were in his first term. But Congressional Republicans polling is about 40%. Congressional Democrats polling is at about 20%. So that's an issue for you. And then you mentioned policies here. On Tuesday, House Republicans are set to hold a vote to overhaul the tax code. They're going to cut spending on Medicaid and food assistance. Now, just in terms of the numbers, you and the Democrats only need 3 House Republicans to jump ship and join you and block any of those measures. If what President Trump and the Congressional Republicans are proposing is so extreme, have you been able to convince any of those 3 Republicans who are in Kamala Harris districts to join you?
Well, that process is certainly ongoing, and as we saw play out all across the country, House Republicans are now being held accountable for the extreme positions connected to this reckless Republican budget. And understand, this budget is a betrayal of working-class Americans, of middle-class Americans, and of everyday Americans. They want to jam $4.5 trillion worth of tax cuts down the throats of the American people to benefit their billionaire donors and wealthy corporations, and at the same time, they want to stick everyday Americans with the bill by ending Medicaid as we know it, undermining veterans' benefits, and doing the type of things that Americans do not support. And so we only need 3 House Republicans. There are 215 Democrats in the House. We only need 3 to stand up on behalf of their constituents. And that is going to be an ongoing effort over the next few days to identify those individuals.
Well, it's not tough to identify them. I mean, there's Fitzpatrick in Pennsylvania. Kamala Harris won his district. And Don Bacon in Omaha. Kamala Harris won his district. I mean, but I have not seen anything to suggest that Democrats have succeeded in winning over any of these Republicans.
Jake, you're talking about 3 different individuals. We're talking about 25 to 30 different individuals who are in the toughest districts all across the country. And as you've seen, for instance, Representative David Valadao from California made clear he's very uncomfortable with these Medicaid cuts. We've seen other Republicans speak about the challenges that they have. Representative Malliotakis right here in New York City has made clear she's very uncomfortable with these Medicaid cuts that are being proposed because they are harmful. They will close hospitals in rural America and urban America. They will shut down nursing homes. They will hurt children, people with disabilities, and seniors.
Speaking of shutdowns, the government is hurtling towards a possible federal government shutdown now less than 3 weeks away. It's 3 weeks away. There are likely going to be enough Republican no votes, no, they don't want to keep the government open, to shut down the government. Usually the far-right Freedom Caucus and the like always vote no on funding the government. So unless Democrats provide Speaker Johnson the votes to bail them out, the government will shut down. What is the strategy? Are House Democrats going to vote to keep the government open, or are you just going to let the Republicans be in charge of all of it?
Well, first of all, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, because as we've been discussing, we have to stop this reckless Republican budget from going forward, and that's going to be on the floor on Tuesday. Now, there are ongoing discussions being led by Rosa DeLauro, top Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee, to see if an enlightened agreement can be reached in advance of March 14th, and we'll see what takes place. What we do know is that the Republicans have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. It is their responsibility to fund the government.
Mayor Adams of your home city of New York is under intense scrutiny this week. There's this alleged quid pro quo with the Trump administration. The Trump administration has moved to drop the federal corruption charges against Adams, and this is supposedly done in exchange for cooperation from Mayor Adams when it comes to enforcing procedures against undocumented immigrants. This alleged quid pro quo has been so stark, so upsetting to so many people. 8 federal prosecutors in the Trump administration and 4 city deputies in the Adams administration have resigned over this. I know you've expressed concern about what's going on, but just a yes or no, do you have confidence in Mayor Adams to lead New York City?
Eric Adams has a responsibility to decisively convince the people of New York City that he's solely focused on their interests and not doing the bidding of Donald Trump and his administration.
You are one of the 2 leaders of the Democratic Party. Is it not important for Democrats, while criticizing Donald Trump for various allegations of corruption, to be able to call it out in their own party?
As I indicated, that Eric Adams has the responsibility to make it clear to the people of New York that he's got their interest top of mind and solely their interest. Now, with respect to the criminal justice side of this situation, there's an ongoing federal court case. The judge has appropriately appointed someone to argue against the Department of Justice's efforts to dismiss the charges, and we'll see what happens in the context of that case. It will be premature for me to say anything about the charges that may or may not go away until then.
Before we go, Donald Trump made repeated comments this week about possibly serving a third term, calling himself a king in a social media post. Do you take that seriously, or do you think he's just trolling people, trying to get them upset?
Listen, Donald Trump is intentionally unleashing extremism and outrageous things on the American people to try to disorient everyday Americans. Donald Trump is not a king. We will never bend the knee. Not now, not ever. And we'll continue to point out that he's focused on the wrong things. He's not focused on improving the quality of life of everyday Americans or driving down the high cost of living. Democrats are committed to making life better for every single American in every single community in every corner of this great country.
Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries from the great state of New York, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Jake.
Now, I have seen a lot of y'all comment on this, and I completely agree with the sentiment that when Hakeem Jeffries came out and said, well, we're in the minority, there's not a lot we can do, we don't have a lot of levers of power, I was incredibly disappointed. And I have talked extensively about how I thought that the first few days of the Trump administration were an abomination from the side of Democrats' inability really to fight back, or inability to want to. There was this idea, and a lot of the pundits were pushing it, and of course Donald Trump tried to get you to buy in the lie that I hate the most, that he won by some overwhelming mandate, some historic victory, which just isn't the case. He barely squeaked it by. This is not some cultural movement around Donald Trump. People wanted their prices lower. They thought he could do it. They were wrong to think so. We tried to warn them, and now the opposite is happening. We have to communicate that point. Donald Trump is not popular. He will never be popular. He is always and historically unpopular. We have to take the fight that everyone is feeling, both Democrats and Republicans alike, to Donald Trump. We are seeing town halls in deep red districts where Republicans are being booed by their constituents mercilessly because things are going so badly. If we do not harness that energy, we are making a tremendous mistake. Hakeem Jeffries just needs to be a little bit more upfront and a little bit more authentic in the way that he is talking about Donald Trump. We don't need to use the same buzzwords and talking points. We can just say, we're going to fight this guy like hell. We're just going to do whatever we can. Sure, we're in the minority, but Republicans have stymied our efforts for decades now using the most insane ways of obstruction. We will be doing the same thing. Donald Trump will not be able to just go for a walk without us standing in the way. Donald Trump won't be able to pick up a piece of paper without us trying to knock it out of his hand. We are doing everything we can to combat him all the time needs to be the MO from Hakeem Jeffries. Or we need a different leader. You need to be harnessing your bully pulpit. You need to be talking all the time. As I always say, just get in front of a camera and say the things that we are feeling. That is your job. Fight him like hell all the time. Do not cede any ground. Let the courts continue to battle this out and make the case to the American people about what they already know to be true. This guy is a failure, and it's only getting worse. And we're going to be talking about all that on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.